if you don't have that much talent, but you can think in a winning, productive mentality, you can still score. I mean, not everybody has the ability to have a tour swing.
I can't look back, it's too late now. My days are hours and I don't know how. But I believe the great is still yet to come. I won't stop fighting, man, until I'm done.
Today's episode is Pressure is a Privilege. I am your host, Bob Cardia. To your far right is the dashing Richie Stoltz. And our new addition, DMG, David Michael Gibson. So we're trying to give David like a funky new fly name. So it's DMG. Let's go.
Coach is big on nicknames.
I am big on nicknames. I am, yeah. We were talking about that the other day. Like, I fill out my paperwork for lessons, and sometimes I just make up names for people. Like this one student we have named Francis. I call him Frantastic. So I start filling out my forms Frantastic, and Mary, who was our assistant, she's like, "Who the hell's Frantastic?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I should probably put the real name on there at some point." Anyway, so today is Pressure is a Privilege, and the old adage is, right, it takes pressure to turn coal into a diamond, which is true. Okay, but how to focus pressure correctly is a topic that we're talking about today. So I reflected upon a story that a student, or actually a Rutgers player, had told me once. And now that we've talked about it, it might have actually been DMG. Like, it's interesting because, when you talk about pressure and how it's applied correctly. So I believe it was you, David, because he came in this morning talking about that, which was like, blew my mind. David's like, well, I like to procrastinate, so at the last minute I perform well under pressure, so when I get to that point I function at my highest level. And I'm like, that might not be the way that it was meant to be done, right? Because then Chuck Noll, who was the coach of the Steelers when they won all the Super Bowls, said that he felt pressure when he wasn't prepared correctly. And I think the truth lies somewhere between. Like Richie was saying, by the way, the founder of the feast today, the topic came from something that Richie said to me this past week. So why don't you tell the story about the amateur?
Yeah, so an amateur golfer made it on tour. I don't know how he made it on tour. I'm assuming maybe Monday qualifying.
Maybe, or
yeah.
Like that, yeah.
He actually turned pro, by the way. He turned pro after the event.
Take
so I
the
guess
money, man. Let's go.
Yeah, I think he's done it in Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
But he ended up winning the tournament, and I think it was 15 minutes after the tournament was over. He was going through all of his interviews and stuff like that. And one of the quotes that came up on the screen was, "Pressure is a privilege." And the second I saw that, I pulled out my phone and texted that right to you, because I was like, ooh, that would be a good...
Because I love it.
Yeah.
Because that's what I believe, yeah. See, I think, and personally, and David, you can comment on this if you like, it is when you use procrastination to create artificial pressure, I think that's more crisis-driven. Like, it works. I'm saying it's not completely ineffective, but when you do things that way, you're always looking at putting out brush fires. You're always just going from one thing to another. You're not actually planning for the future. So, like, things that I like to do, and as I texted these guys last night, apparently none of us sleep, just so you know, and this isn't Twilight.
3 hours.
We're not vampire. Yeah, right. I know. I texted what time? At like 3 o'clock in the morning. Like, guys, what do you think about this for tomorrow's podcast? And Richie responds right away, which not probably healthy, but it's okay. I like to have plans beforehand of what I'm going to do. So the goal is to do things in steps. I think that they say that great things are accomplished by taking small, consistent steps. And what we do, actually, David wasn't here for this, but we had our weekly staff meeting, and we meet every Wednesday. I mean, it's religious. We meet every Wednesday. I think of the past 71 or 72 Wednesdays, we've met 71 of them, and there's a reason for that. I find no matter what, that if you keep up that consistency, then you can keep up progress. So the book written, oh gosh, I can't remember the author now. But anyway, it's called The One Thing, New York Times bestseller list. I hand out, and I think we've talked about this in other episodes, other podcasts, that I give each one of you a neon piece of paper with 3 things on it. And one thing can be personal, and another 2 things have to be business related. What 3 things are going to get done between now and next week? Well, now that we've added DMG, we're going cray-cray. Like, we're just, we're throwing all kinds of ideas out there. And it's super exciting. Like, you guys, I'm excited about it. And if you're not, just lie to me. It's fine. Okay. But about all these things we're going to get done. But then Richie said to me after the meeting, and I love productive feedback. Richie was like, well, Coach, now that we're doing 3 things each, that's 12 things, and things are kind of getting biased on a couple different items. And I'm like, you know what? You're right, they are. So what we're now going to do, apply probably more of the principle of the book to create true pressure to make the diamonds, is each person at this table is going to be prioritized to one thing a week. One thing that's the most important thing that you need to get done between now and next week, that if you get it done, it'll move our cause forward. And that way, when we sit there, and if you only got one thing to do, right, we're sitting there talking to each other, if you can't get that one thing done, then we're going to take you out back and beat you up.
I like it.
Yeah, right. Because that's, if we're looking really to be great, and that's, again, I don't see the point in doing anything unless you want to be great. So we're going to do the one thing. I guess a Schwarzenegger quote, which I love. He said, "You cannot climb the ladder of success with your hands in your pockets." And I think that's where procrastination kind of comes into my mind. You're never really climbing if you're just putting out fires all the time. But anyway, with that said, I was actually reading part of Dr. Richard Cooper's book the other day, and it's an older book on performance psychology in golf, and the foreword was written by Payne Stewart. Now, I'll tell this story. So Richie's heard me tell this story a million times, and David probably 500,000. We teach group lessons. I've taught group lessons every spring and fall now for, 25 years. And it was probably 2 years ago now, but we have, about 28 to 8 to 12-year-olds, and I said Jack Nicklaus, and not one kid knew who Jack Nicklaus was. So then one kid raised his hand, right? He said, "Wasn't that the guy in The Shining?" Well, I don't know what's more alarming, that you got 20 kids who don't know who Jack Nicklaus is, or you got an 8-year-old who's seen The Shining. But be nice to that kid, I'm just saying. Okay. Anyway, I said Payne Stewart to my young colleagues here, and David did not know Payne Stewart, which pains me, because the guy won majors in the 90s. It ain't that old, right? Although I am getting older. But anyway, for those of you who don't know Payne Stewart used to wear knickers. And I always used to say, it's like, if you're going to wear knickers, you better be good. Because,
statement.
Yes, you're making a statement. Yeah. But he won a couple majors, and so I'm reading his foreword of the book, and it basically said that it was harder for him to learn the psychology and to apply it than had the physical gifts. He spent his entire life being told how gifted he was, and couldn't win as many tournaments as he wanted to. So what Dr. Coop did is he put a pre-shot routine into his toolbox. And basically what Stewart says in the preview is his pre-shot routine was the exact same on the first round Thursday morning as it was in the most pressure-packed situation on Sunday. And if you can keep that as your pre-shot routine, then you're able to keep yourself at a level. Getting yourself to be a consistent performer, you have to constantly put yourself in that position. And Richie, you and I have had that conversation. Like, Richie had to learn how to win. So, why don't you keep?
I never won a golf tournament until I actually came to Bob in college, and
so you owes me.
So.
Rich and famous.
10%.
I get 10% Richie, rich and famous. Yes.
No, I never won a tournament until I came to you in college. And once I won the first tournament, that's when I started winning. That's when I won the 4 tournaments in a row. That's when I think I had 11 wins over there at Rutgers.
Yeah.
So,
very impressive.
you know, it took a while. It took, 20 years for me to win a tournament?
Man, you're getting old.
Well, okay, sorry. I started when I was 10, so 10 years. All right,
Do you
I'm not
think-
old.
Was it change in your swing or your mindset, right? Probably
Mindset. It was
Yeah,
it was
100.
just knowing I can win now. That's all it was.
That's
And
it.
we've talked about that, with me playing professional golf, is I have a feeling once I get one win, once I qualify into one event, they're just going to start tacking on.
Yes,
Mhm.
it's like adding on.
Okay.
Yes, getting better and better and better. Yeah, I agree. Thinking well. It's and again in the preview or the forward of that book, Payne Stewart said it's also fascinating when he plays in a lot of pro-ams, or did. He played in a lot of pro-ams, and he was amazed at people that had talent that couldn't score, or people that didn't have as much talent that could. If you don't have that much talent, but you can think in a winning, productive mentality, you can still score. I mean, not everybody has the ability to have a tour swing. Not everybody's as flexible as these two here. I mean, if you can think well. Actually, we had 2. The Magic Wands we had, and then I had Chris Torgerson, I believe his name was. His swing was a little bit quirky, but he just believed that he was that good, and it translated to he was our best player of that year because he had that inner confidence about being able to play the sport, which is huge.
Glass of bourbon, ha ha. My bourbon, ha ha. My bourbon, ha ha. Alcohol, because no great story ever started with I'll have a salad.